Hey, so I've acquired enough cues to warrant providing some A's. I know I said I'd wait about a week, but I was getting a little bored with all the schoolwork I've had and noticed that there was a good buildup of questions. I should preface this by saying that I will in all likelihood butcher the fuck out of some of your names, so I'm sorry ahead of time. I also don't know how long this is going to take me since I like to talk sometimes, so I'll be posting timestamps to the questions in the pinned comment down below, so you can skip right to yours if you'd like. So let's get this shindig started. Zabu asks, what game did you enjoy playing the most on this channel? That's a tough choice. Seeing as I usually try to pick things that I know I'll get some enjoyment out of, if I had to pick something on the channel and say that I enjoyed it the most, I'd probably have to point towards something I did early on. Most likely Amnesia or Outlast, because I had no idea what I was doing or what to expect from even attempting Let's Plays. I was timid, I didn't know what to say. The equipment I was working with was awful. It was just like a standard headset microphone that actually started breaking as soon as I started YouTube, and it was like hanging half off my headset while I was talking. And I knew next to nothing about photo or video editing. I just sort of slapped it in there and hit export thinking that's how things were done. I just knew I liked doing it. It was a time of personal growth and learning for me, so I tend to look back on those days with some fondness, likely because it was so innocent and hopeful. So yeah, anything around the time I began making Let's Plays. Thank you for your question. Love of Fish Swims asks, if you could live anywhere in the world, where would you choose? I've asked myself this question a few times. Currently I live in Canada, the ass end of it to be exact. And while I disagree with a lot of the things that go on here, I'm grateful to have grown up in a relatively safe environment with access to clean water and food. If I were to pick somewhere else to live though, I'd have to research the hell out of it to make an informed decision. From a surface level perspective though, I've always fancied Ireland. My background is almost all Irish and my family name runs pretty deep there. I've always taken pride in that background and would like to at least one day visit the country. So to answer the question then, Ireland. Love of Fish Swims also asks, how many countries have you been to? Sadly, I've never left my home country of Canada. So to answer that, 1. Love of Fish Swims also asks, where would you like to visit if you could visit anywhere in the world and why? Honestly, there are too many places I'd like to at least visit at some point in my life. Germany, Japan, Australia, just to name a few. My reasons for each are usually identical. I want to take in the different scenery, experience their individual cultures, treat each as a learning experience, taking in as much as I can to gain a better understanding of different nations and cultures of the world. I'd want to make sure that I can see everything that I can, do everything possible, and talk with as many people as I can while I'm there, and help gain some perspective. Love of Fish Swims also asks, besides gaming, what do you enjoy doing in your spare time? Surprisingly, I don't do as much gaming nowadays as I did as a kid or as a teen or even 3 years ago, thanks to adult responsibilities and whatnot. To answer the question though, I'm heavy into music, both listening and playing. I've played guitar ever since I was about 11 years old, and I picked up the trumpet in high school for a music class or two. I'm also into movies and anime, of course. For movies, I really like the crime genre, The Godfather, Scarface, The Wolf of Wall Street, as well as horror. I love the adrenaline I get from watching a good horror movie, particularly anything involving demons and religion. For some reason, those two particularly stand out to me. Anything to do with cults, too. Those are pretty spooky. For anime, I tend to watch dramatic shit. For some reason, it's really easy for me to get into some overly sickening romance anime, but those tend to be my favorites. But I tend to watch a bit of everything. I've never really been into any sports. I played baseball as a kid. The only thing that really interests me nowadays, in terms of like that, is boxing. I enjoy watching a good fight and have partook in a few myself. Love of Fish Swims also asks, have you ever eaten soursop? I assume I'm pronouncing that right. And I can't say that I have. I don't think I've ever heard of it until now. I did a quick search for it, and it's described as having a flavor between strawberry and pineapple with a sour citrus flavor and a creamy texture, which is all very, very weird, but interesting to me. From the images, the fruit looks like it wants to kill me. But strawberries and pineapples are two of my favorite fruits, so I'm intrigued. I'll keep an eye out for it. Love of Fish Swims also asks, what is your favorite game genre? Now, that's a tough question. I don't really want to provide a broad answer to this one, but I might have to. The first thing that comes to mind are RPGs. Almost all of the games I've wasted the most time in throughout my life have been RPGs. Mass Effect, The Witcher, The Elder Scrolls, Fallout. A close second would be horror. As a kid, I hated everything to do with horror, so as I got older, I wanted to break that affliction. So I rented the original Dead Space and BioShock when I was like 12 to 13, and forced myself to beat them both in the weekend. And that's how I can play a lot of horror games today. Good times. Lava Fish Swims also asks, do you think you'll continue Hello Charlotte and try the others in the series? It's funny you should ask that. I just recently finished recording the last half of the game. It just needs to be edited down and then released. So I'm hoping to get it out at some point within the next month or so. I always feel bad when I drop a series for any length of time, but I only have a finite amount of time during the week to record, edit, and upload shit. Once I finished uploading the rest of Hello Charlotte, I'd be willing to check out the other games. I did quite enjoy it. Lava Fish Swims also asks, if you had to choose any game world to be reality, which would it be? Oh boy, I have to be really careful with my choice here. If I just blurt out whatever's on my mind, then chances are I wouldn't actually be able to survive in that world. Let me think here. I got it. Fortnite. Nah, I'm just fucking with you. To keep things safe and happy, I'd say Stardew Valley or maybe Harvest Moon. Ditching everything to live on a farm, growing crops, fishing, raising animals. It all seems interesting to me. If I'm not trying to play it safe and logical, the world of the Elder Scrolls seems pretty interesting. Though chances are I'd end up just being a background character caught in the endless hell of repeating the same dialogue over and over again with the same voice actor as the guy next to me. So I'll stick with Stardew Valley. Thank you for all your questions. Okay, now this is an example of where I'm afraid to try and pronounce the name because I'm going to get it wrong no matter what I do. So I'm just going to say Prince Channel if that's okay. Prince Channel asks, what tips do you have for up-and-coming content creators like yourself? I'd hardly call myself up-and-coming, more like up-and-came. That came out wrong. Jokes aside, I feel as though I'm in no position to really answer this question. Nothing pisses me off more than when some clickbait meme lord with 100 subscribers tries to tell people how to grow on YouTube. It's pathetic. I don't think there's one set way to grow. I think what's important is that you're enjoying whatever it is you're making. I know that's cliched and the generic sort of response, but if you follow that, you'll be less inclined to quit when no one's watching you for a year. If you set out thinking that you're going to become the greatest commentator or the best vlogger of all time, seemingly overnight without any thought, time, or effort put in, then you'll quickly come to find just how misguided you really are. But if you really enjoy something, and I mean really enjoy it, none of this wishy-washy bullshit that people try to pass off as passion around here, but actual excitement when you're making that thing, whatever it is, then you'll likely be just fine. I know I found mine. When recording and editing videos, I feel excited. I'm energized by it, even though my format is incredibly simple, and the genre I'm in has been beaten to death. I still find ways to surprise myself and get excited. To sum it up, do something that excites you, and that you know you'll enjoy, because for a long fucking time, nobody's going to give two shits about you or what you do. Thank you for your question. MaliceDiary asks, when will you live stream again? The simple answer to this is whenever I feel like it. The more complicated answer is whenever I can. To stream at the level I want to right now, it requires some serious horsepower and a strong internet connection. Currently, I have the former fairly well covered. I'm waiting for a new internet package from my ISP that's supposed to be available sometime in the near future that will allow me to better stream at the quality I desire. I know that there are plenty of people who would kill to get their hands on what I have already, but I'm a stickler for video quality, and YouTube doesn't help in that regard by compressing videos and streams all to hell. I'll give a brief summary here for those who don't know. If you're a smaller channel and stream or upload your videos at 1080p or less, YouTube purposefully selects their lower quality encoder for your videos and streams. A solution to this is to upload and stream at 1440p or higher. This gives you access to the higher quality encoder regardless of your channel size. Just a tidbit. Thank you for your question. Love you. Christian Means asks, who's your video game male and female crushes? I think out of all of the questions so far, this is likely the hardest. I haven't had any video game crushes since I was in my early to mid-teens, so I'll be going back a little bit. I'll start with the female crush, since that's the first that came to my mind, and that's Tali Zora from the Mass Effect trilogy. I played through the Mass Effect trilogy about 10 times when I was younger, and every time I made damn sure to romance the fuck out of Tali. I love the intelligence she possesses, being smarter than everyone on the ship, and I always thought that she was the kindest individual of the Normandy crew. She was incredibly insecure about herself, and I always liked that when you followed her romance path, or hell, even just her standard friendship path, those insecurities would shed, and she'd begin to believe in herself a lot more. So it was those internal character developments that led me to practically only pick her whenever I run through the games. I think I could relate at the time. I've got a thing for nerdy people who can overcome their internal shit and shine brighter than before. For a male crush, I think it goes in the opposite direction. I like strength, power, independence, someone who has a goal and is driven to achieve it. There are two immediate characters that come to mind: John Marston from Red Dead Redemption and Geralt from the Witcher series. I think they both represent these qualities in spades. John Marston, who's willing to sacrifice everything, including his own life for his family, knowing full well that eventually the government will turn on him and go against their word. And Geralt, who doesn't give a flying fuck about anything except those who are close to him. So, in the end, I'd say that when it comes to crushes in general, with women I like traits that I find, for the most part, are the opposite of mine. Someone who's more kind-hearted, not afraid to confront their inner feelings despite knowing that they're making themselves vulnerable. And for men, I like the traits that are similar to my own: survival, self-preservation, jumping to defend those who are close to them, ready to rip apart anyone who goes near them. Someone with a goal in mind and the drive to achieve it in any way they can. I think I've spent the most time on this question so far. Anyway, thank you for the question. I hope that provided some sort of insight into me. Undead Archangel asks, quick, solve this algebraic equation. 2i minus 6u less than 0. If you're trying to do what I think you're looking to do, then I believe the equation you're looking for is 2i less than 6u, which would equal out to I less than 3u, which when said is I heart you. But if not, then I'll try and solve it as is, which looks to be pretty well impossible. And everything I've tried doesn't work. So, I less than 3u too. Undead Archangel also asks, what is your ultimate goal with this channel? I don't know if I have an ultimate goal with the channel. I don't want to spew some cock and bullshit story about how I'm hoping to cure people's depression or save the spotted owl through charity, because that's simply not true. If those things end up happening because of the channel, then that's fucking fantastic, but they are by no means my goals. I feel as if those who start out with that mentality end up getting discouraged early on and abandon their channels when they only get 5 subscribers in 2 months. No, my goals are much more selfish. But not in the typical money-grubbing, fame-hungry power fantasy I feel a lot of people tend to have when starting. Because those are, to put it simply, fucking delusions. No, my selfish intentions are in the form of knowledge. I've always loved to learn, anything and everything if it interests me. And YouTube and video making interest me a lot. Even after 2.5 years, I'm still looking for ways to improve the skills I picked up on. Now, a lot of people would probably think, you play video games for the internet, what skills could you possibly be learning? Well, I'll try and break it down here. Before I even hit record, I've warmed up my voice and practiced vocal techniques I've picked up on throughout the years. Once the recording started, I'm practicing my public speaking skills. I imagine as though I have a small audience watching me, even though I'm just sitting here alone in a room talking. Now, comedy is subjective, but I believe that as time has gone on, this skill has improved as well, and it comes from practice, something the recording process helps a lot with. So just by sitting down and recording a video, I practiced 2, 3, maybe even 4 skills. Once that's done, it's time to edit it. Another skill that improves over time with practice. The first time you load up a video editor, you won't know fuck all about what you're doing unless you've done some prior research. From here, it comes down to creativity and knowledge of the tools you possess. I'd say that currently my editing skills are quite basic to entry-level intermediate, but I've experimented with a lot of small things that go relatively unnoticed by the general populace, such as color grading, correcting brightness and contrast issues, sharpening footage, masking, green screen effects, appropriate sound effects, small animations, even basic shit like transitions I've messed around with. That diffusion transition you see on the text in my recent videos is tweaked by me to get it where I want it. And this isn't even getting into the photo editing skills you can pick up on, because thumbnails are incredibly important to get people interested in what you're making. I've also written hundreds of detailed reviews for the games I've played over on itch.io, which allows me to practice my writing skills. Even just by playing video games for the internet, I'm learning a metric fuck ton of stuff. This answer is getting to be quite long, and I could go on until I'm blue in the face. But the point is that if I had to pick an ultimate goal, it would be to continue learning and honing my skills. Thank you very much for your question. TLman1234 asks, which do you prefer? Coconut juice or pineapple milk? I love me some good old-fashioned nut milk, if you know what I mean. Fucking hell. I guess pineapple milk. I think that would be more interesting than coconut juice, because coconut juice, you know, you could refer to coconut milk as coconut juice if you really wanted to. I mean, why the fuck not? But pineapple milk, that sounds absolutely fucking disgusting, and I want to try it. TLman1234 also asks, when would you think of doing a face reveal? That's a good question. I've thought about doing it before, and hell, I actually did do it before. When I first started the channel, after a little while, I implemented a small face cam into my videos, but I just didn't really like it. I've always been a bit self-conscious of my appearance, and that stems from being told countless times as a kid that I was ugly. But fuck it, there's no time like the present, right? This do anything for you? Okay, now I think it's fair to say that I don't have any future plans to include a face cam or anything in any of my videos in the foreseeable future. I mean, I've had some ideas, but nothing concrete. So, for now, this is all you get. So I hope it was worth it. So, yeah. Thank you for your questions. Mason Barter asks, what is your opinion on body, soul, and spirit? Are they different entities or not? That's an interesting question, actually. Not one I've ever really thought too much about, so I'll give it my best shot here. Before I start, I'll say that I recognize some sort of religious connection to this. The body representing the Father, the soul representing the Son, and the spirit representing the Holy Spirit. I was raised Catholic for a little while, but for a long time now, religion hasn't played much of a role in my life. I didn't mean to bring that into this, but I couldn't help but make the possible connection there. Okay, so now for my answer. The body would be everything physically, all the matter that comes together to make you, you. The soul is where things get a bit more complex. As you said, it would be your brain, and adding to that, to me, it would represent your will, your goals, and your emotions. The spirit would be the most complex to understand of the three. For everyone, it would probably be different. As you put it, it's the internal values we all possess, but these values will be different depending on who you ask. Mason Barter also asks, is cereal soup? To this, I want to say yes and no. I've watched the video Vsauce did on this, or at least skimmed through it, but I remember enough to sort of explain it. By the Latin definition, soup is bread soaked in broth. So with the case of cereal, the dry cereal would be the bread, and the milk would be the broth. At the same time, though, I wouldn't really say that cereal is a soup by our modern day definition. I could probably go further into this, arguing that cereal could potentially be a salad. But, I'm not gonna go there. Thank you kindly for your questions. Hellhound04 asks, why does your voice sound so damn smooth? The answer to this is a simple one. To achieve this level of smoothness, I simply took sandpaper to my vocal cords for hours on end. Nah, I really don't know. I'll assume that there's some funky genetics going on there. I think I mentioned in a previous question too that for a long time I practiced proper speaking techniques. Breathing in using the diaphragm, speaking fully from the diaphragm, fucking my diaphragm. Stuff like that. I think it all goes hand in hand in creating the voice that's currently tickling your ear holes. Thank you for your question. Jackie J asks, what are some of your favorite song/music artists? I don't know if I can pick a favorite on my own. I listen to practically anything and everything, and I'll find some enjoyment in it. So I shall consult my Spotify account. Now, according to Spotify, my most listened to artists are Blink-182, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Nirvana, Linkin Park, Foo Fighters, Queen, My Chemical Romance, Panic at the Disco, and Muse. I guess I'm basically a 15-year-old girl from 2010. Now, if I were to pick a favorite song from each one of those, that gets even fucking harder. For Blink-182, the very first song I ever listened to was The Rock Show. It was introduced to me by one of my brothers, and I really fucking enjoyed it. But I don't know if it's my favorite. Now, if I had to choose, there's three songs that come to mind that I can't pick between, and that's Stockholm Syndrome, Going Away to College, and Feeling This. Those are the three Blink-182 songs that come to mind when I think of my favorite, and I can't pick between the three. I like them all for different reasons, but they're all roughly at the same level for me. For the Red Hot Chili Peppers, it's Can't Stop. Like, that is my fucking favorite song by them. Of course, there's songs like Scar Tissue, Californication, Under the Bridge, Other Side, Snow, Danny California. They're all fucking amazing songs, but the beat of Can't Stop always gets me fucking going. Like, it just energizes me. It's fantastic. Nirvana? Oh, fuck. I have so many fucking favorite songs by them. There are 2 songs by Nirvana that come to mind when I think of my favorite, and they're the ones that I play to fucking death. And that's On a Plane and You Know You're Right. Just something about those 2 songs I really enjoy, and I can listen to them on repeat forever. For Linkin Park, I think my favorite song is Faint or Paper Cut. One or the other. I know a lot of people really like Numb and In the End, and I do too, but I think Paper Cut's my favorite. Yeah. Foo Fighters, another band where I'm going to have trouble picking a favorite song. Okay, when I think of my favorite Foo Fighters songs, there are a few that come to mind, and I think that they're probably the basic ones that a lot of people would really like. And that's Everlong, The Pretender, My Hero, and Something from Nothing. Those are the 4 that I have to pick between for my favorite, and I don't know if I can do it. I think recently though, like, if you had asked me a few years ago what my favorite song would have been by them, it probably would have been The Pretender. But since listening to a lot of their recent albums, Something from Nothing has become my favorite song by them. And it's mostly just because of the build-up in energy, and then like the drop-off point, but then the build right back up. Plus it also tells some like interesting stories about like a lot of Chicago-based blues artists, and how like they were treated like dog shit when they were starting out, and how they were lied to, and they were barely surviving and everything. And you know, and here come along these corporate assholes who want them to like change their name and shit to make them more appealing to the mass public. Fuck that. Anyway, that's my favorite song by the Foo Fighters, Something from Nothing. It gets me really fucking energized. For Queen, there are a lot of songs I like from them. I like Keep Yourself Alive, Somebody to Love, Another One Bites the Dust, Hammer to Fall, We Will Rock You, Radio Gaga, Bohemian Rhapsody, of course, Under Pressure, and Don't Stop Me Now. So I have a whole lot to pick from for my favorite. I think just like with a lot of other songs that I picked, it comes down to what gives me the most energy. And between all of those, there's 2. And that's Keep Yourself Alive and Hammer to Fall. And I think between the 2, I'd have to pick Hammer to Fall. I just love the energy that emanates from that song. It's fantastic. So yeah, for Queen, Hammer to Fall is my favorite song. My Chemical Romance. Quite possibly the first punkish sort of band I was introduced to and listened to as a young tween. And also another one where it's going to be a bitch to pick my favorite song. Well, actually, it might not be too hard because I mostly just enjoyed the Black Parade album. Basically, Black Parade and everything before. I wasn't a huge fan of the Danger Days album. I recognize a lot of the creativity in it and like the steps outside of that, like, because they were segregated into like, oh, they're an emo band sort of thing, even though it wasn't really the case. That's just where they ended up falling into by the general public, and it kind of sucks. And the Danger Days sort of tried to break them out of that, I guess. It had more of a poppy sound to it to me, and that's fine. I like some of the songs on that. One would be Disenchanted. I really like that song. Obviously, Welcome to the Black Parade. And another one would be House of Wolves. If I had to pick between the 3, I'd probably choose Disenchanted. I don't know, that one really stuck with me as a teen. I associated with the lyrics. I don't know why, I just did. So yeah, I picked Disenchanted for MCR. Panic at the Disco. Now this is more of a recent addition to like one of my favorite artists. A lot of my friends got into them early on, and I really didn't want to listen to them. I don't know why. I just sort of blocked it out and was like, oh yeah, that's just another piece of shit band. I don't really want to hear it. I was quite mistaken. They are well worth listening to. A couple of the songs I like by them are Death of a Bachelor, This Is Gospel, Lying is the Most Fun a Girl Can Have Without Taking Her Clothes Off, And I write sins, not tragedies, of course. But if I had to pick a favorite out of all of those, I think it's This Is Gospel. It's something to do with the beat. Once again, another song that energizes the fuck out of me. Like, I put that on, and it's like having the beat blasting in my ears. I just want to go get shit done. So it's really good at that, I guess. So yeah, This Is Gospel for Panic at the Disco. It's my favorite song by them. And lastly, Muse, which to pick my favorite is Knights of Sidonia. That's pretty easy. Same reasoning as all the other songs I've picked, basically. Just energizes me. I love music that can get me like moving when I'm trying to work or like just singing along or bopping my head or whatever. And that's what I like. So yeah, those are some of my favorite artists and some of my favorite songs by my favorite artists. Jackie J also asks, which authors, novels, short stories do you enjoy? Okay, the first author that comes to mind is Stephen King. As a horror fan, I've always enjoyed his work. Christine, The Shining, Pet Sematary, just to name a few. I've also enjoyed his more fantasy and supernatural stuff like The Gunslinger and The Green Mile. Another novel that comes to mind is The Road by Cormac McCarthy. I enjoy reading post-apocalyptic fiction, since I always toy around with the possibilities as to how scenarios like that may one day occur in our world. Plus, the novel really underlines what the struggles of a world like that might actually be. Every second of every day fighting for your survival and for the survival of those who are counting on you. Shit hits fucking hard. When it comes to short stories, I've always had a thing for Edgar Allan Poe. The Black Cat, The Telltale Heart, The Cast of Amontillado, just to name a few. He was such a depressed and disturbed man, and that's really reflected in a lot of his work, which to me makes it fascinating to read. Jackie J also asks which video game ended up being a favorite because of the nostalgia you have for it from childhood. Okay, 2 games come to mind if that's okay. The first is Ape Escape 2 for the PS2. I could never find an actual copy to buy for myself, but a local movie rental store almost always had a copy available, and I'd rent it for weeks at a time. I adored that game, and I still do to this day. To me, it just explodes with creativity and insanity, and I love it. The second game that comes to mind is Spyro Year of the Dragon for the PS1, which I just recently beat for the first time in my life. That game brings back a lot of memories. Trying to collect all the eggs, all of the gems, 100% completing as many areas as I could. I never had a memory card for my PS1, and it took about a year to get one for my PS2, so I'd always try and beat the games in one sitting. I got really good at the first few levels of a lot of games because of that. Jackie J also asks, which video game was a favorite because of how well made, well written, or well enjoyable it was? Once again, 2 games come to mind for this one, and it's hard for me to pick between the 2 since I sunk about equal time into both, well around 150 plus hours each, and those are Mass Effect 2 and The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. Everything about those 2 games screams perfect to me, from the way the games actually play to their in-depth stories and character developments. I'd always go off and read everything I could get my hands on in those games just to learn more about the worlds, and I was never disappointed with what I found. Jackie J also asks, there's a concept of how you can become immortal, in a way, via people who've known you carrying around their memories of you in their thoughts. But wouldn't they all have a different version of you in their heads? And wouldn't their perception or interpretation of you differ from how you think of or view yourself? Would it even be memories of you, or just various mangled pieces of the whole person you once were? Holy shit, talk about deep. I think that concept would be called collective immortality, or something like that. And I'd agree that each person would likely have a different view of the individual. We all process thoughts and feelings differently and have our own opinion on things, and frankly, I think that's a good thing. It allows for the promotion of discussion rather than just blind belief. Although, obviously, that still occurs, but I'd like to think that the former is taken more. If done in an appropriate manner, many people could learn different things about the given individual just by sharing their perspectives on them. Of course, those perspectives will differ from how the individual may view themselves, but that's what makes it interesting. I suppose that in a way, it would and it wouldn't be the memories of the individual forever immortalized. Somewhere along the line, the various perceptions will get muddied, and no one may be able to pinpoint what exactly the message, ideals, or thoughts were of that individual, which opens the door to various interpretations. But no one will ever actually know if those interpretations are correct or not, and I find that fascinating. Thank you very much for your questions. And lastly, Just Joey asks, will you suck my nuts and subscribe to me? Heart. Well, the answer to that really depends on you. Are we talking about like a mutual nut-sucking session here, or are you just simply asking me to suck your nuts and I get nothing in return? You know, in that case, it hardly seems fair to me. And another question arises in that, like, what kind of situation are we dealing with here? You know, on a scale from 1 to 10, what is the fuzziness of these coconuts? You know, are we talking like a pair of smooth criminals? Or are we talking like, you know, fucking foresty jungle Tarzan kind of bullshit? You know, there's many factors that go into this equation, and I need to know them. And as for the subscribing to you, it looks like your channel was just recently made, and you got nothing. But you're from Australia, so that's pretty cool. So yeah, sure. Thank you for your questions. Well, we've made it to the end of the Q&A. I tried to give every question a fair and honest answer to the best of my ability, and I hope it came across that way. I hope you've walked away from this knowing a bit more about me. For the longest time, I tried to keep the me out of this channel, and I somewhat regret doing that. I've been afraid to express certain things about myself, or even fucking show myself, for fear of denial, ridicule, or rejection. So something like this is especially helpful for me. And it lets me grow not only as a person, but as a content creator, despite me disliking that term, hence the way I just said it just now. If you end up having any more questions, or didn't get a chance to post your question on the other video, then feel free to do so on this one, and I'll try to respond to it. Anyway, that's it for this. That's about 50 minutes of talking for me, so I hope you enjoyed this. It was kind of fun. I don't know if I'll ever do one again, because I don't think I'm going to get much bigger than 1,000 subscribers, and I figured that's a good point where I could get a lot of really good questions, and I was right. I did. You guys fucking delivered some very interesting questions, and I wasn't expecting them at all. So in the future, I'd have to reach like another 1,000 or something for me to really feel like doing something like this again. Or maybe not. I don't know. I never really know what I'm going to do for the channel. I just sort of decide on a dime, and then it's just like, oh, okay, that sounds interesting. Let's go get it done. Well, anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Take care, and I'll see you around.